What's going on, guys? A lot of you guys who've been around the knife hobby for a long time will probably be able to skip this video. This is more intended to the people who are new to the hobby, and I want to go over why I feel that the Chris Reeve Sebenza in a large 21 micarta insert is worth over $500. I wish there was a video like this when I first got into knives, because I would love to just have it pointed out to me, just point blank, you know. But anyways, here's your packaging. I'm not a big packaging guy. I could care less. But a lot of people feel like when you get over $500 on an item, you know, it should have some sort of special packaging. So there you go. You get your terry cloth, whatever this is, towel, microfiber. You have a birthday card and all that. To me, this is all fluff stuff. I don't really care about all this, but some people do. You get a sticker, you get a warranty card and all that. And you also get your Allen key that will disassemble this knife. Now, one of the big things about this knife is they encourage you to take it apart. They encourage you to do your maintenance on it. They even sell the fluorinated grease and everything to take care of the pivot. For one, this knife is stupidly easy to assemble and disassemble, so long as you do it the correct way. So what we're going to do is I'm going to try to run through it. Not rush, but not take up 30 minutes of your time too. So this is the large Sebenza 21 with the micarta inlay. And you can see, let's start off with the inlay. This is not an external. There's actually a milled-in pocket in the titanium, and then that micarta is cut perfectly in there. And then it uses the same tape to hold these inlays in. I know a lot of people worry about, if you go on the Chris Reeve forums, they worry about, people who are new to Chris Reeve knives are worried about maybe these inlays falling out because they're not screwed in any way. I've never seen it. And they won't even switch these inlays out. So if you wanted to get this secondhand, tell them to switch out the inlay for wood or something like that, they won't do it, because this inlay will break when it comes out. So the tape that they use in it, I read somewhere that it's the same tape that they use to hold in glass in skyscrapers. So it is super strong. But just know that's not an overlay. That's actually milled in a pocket. So any kind of force moving this inlay around, it's encapsulated all the way around. I'm sure it's almost a press fit. You can definitely see how tight that tolerance is all the way around. And that continues the theme for the whole knife. Just super tight tolerances all the way around. I love this Sebenza for many reasons. I still feel like it is the best knife for the money in the higher end market. Maybe not as good as, you know, some of the other budget EDC blades where you're getting S30V in titanium for a lot less than $500. But when you jump into the high-end knife game, I'm talking when you start looking at customs and stuff like that, I really think you owe it to yourself to try this knife, because of the tolerances, because of the unique pivot system on here, and because he invented the frame lock. Chris Reeve invented the Reeve integral lock. You can see it there. So when I first held this Sebenza, it was actually a large micarta just like this one that I owned first. And I was really surprised, because you see it in pictures and stuff and you don't realize what a tank of a knife it actually is. It is a hard use knife. Not as in you could pry open whatever with it, right? But as in a hard use cutting tool. So you get a beautiful hollow ground blade there on a stone washed finish for the standard one. They do have others where they're satin finished and more of a polished finish, but this is considered the working one. So this is blasted all the way around, has the micarta inlay, and I do recommend micarta inlays over the plain. They're completely subjective, but I really do like that little bit of extra width that it puts on the knife here, and makes it feel a little more comfy to your hand, especially if you're using this in colder climates, because this titanium can get cold in your pocket when you pull it out to use it. It's nice to have this micarta that's actually more of a warmer touch to it. Plus, I like the way that the micarta will age over time too. This will actually get like a patina, will darken up as you carry and use it. All right, so let's get down into the internals. First, I guess I should go over lockup. I get a lot of questions about, is my lockup too deep on my Sebenza? No. Sebenzas are not meant to be, the first quarter lockup here like this. Like a lot of people, Sebenza really, really likes to be at home at about at least halfway. I've seen them farther. Here's my small. I actually wouldn't mind if it was a little deeper than that. It's not required, but that's definitely not too deep, especially for Sebenza. I've had a lot of old ones go through my hands in and out over the years, and they don't tend to move. Because of the way, when we take it apart, I'm going to show you how this is carburized. So it kind of has a heat treat on the face of the titanium there. There is no need, in my opinion, and obviously in Chris Reeves' opinion, to have a lock insert. They take some heat, but usually it's from people who are newer to knives and don't have quite the experience, I think. But then again, you have some other people who are well-versed in the knife hobby and say, well, the Sebenza is outdated and it should have a insert. And I don't have any knives on the table here with an insert. It's funny, Strider hasn't went to the insert. Hinder hasn't went to the insert. Chris Reeve has not went to the insert, yet they sell a lot of knives. I'm not saying that the insert is a bad idea. I do love a lock bar insert, but it is definitely not required if your fitment is right from your titanium to your tang. I have a whole video on that and how I feel about that. The Sebenza definitely does it right. I think they do it best. So I don't know. Did you see how I did that? So I cocked the blade about, I don't know, about 30% open or so, and then undid the pivot, and then slowly slid the whole unit out as one piece. Now there it is. That is the unique pivot system that I was talking about. You see this bushing is like a spacer in the center of the blade there. And then the washer is at the perfect thickness on both sides. It has been tuned. So now you can tighten up your titanium slab, your pivot. You can snug it up tight. You don't want to go crazy tight, but you can definitely snug it up and it doesn't affect the action of the knife. I really like this system here, and you can see all the fitment there. It has to be nice and tight, otherwise your blade would have wiggle, right? If there was slop in this, if there was slop in this piece that's going into here, and all of that cost time and money. You're buying the precision there. So that's why this knife, one of the big reasons why it is worth what it's worth. Just, there's tons. We're going to try to go over them here. So there you go. If you're wondering why those washers are perforated here, it's to hold their fluorinated grease. Now this one come to me used, so I have to clean it up. You can tell it was carried and used in the pocket. See that clip? But this actually acts as a little pocket to hold the grease. And then also these are bronze phosphor washers, which are almost self-lubricating anyways. So all that's just adding to the hydraulic smoothness. A lot of people get confused when they hear so much great about the Sebenza and then they get it in hand and it's not like a free dropping axis lock. It's a different type of smoothness, where this is a very free action. The Sebenza is definitely not like that. You need a very intentional, it has a very high-end feel. I don't know if you've ever closed the door on a Dodge Neon and then closed the door on a nice high-end Audi or a Mercedes or something like that. Just the sound and the feel is different. You can just hear it in the lockup. Is different than most. So all of that comes into play. I feel all that you're paying extra money for. A lot of people think, oh, it's just the brand. No, the brand is very strong for all the reasons I'm pointing out. Um, I'm sure there's going to be some that I'm going to miss too. I'm going all this just completely off memory. I probably should have did some bullet point style notes to the side, but I'm very familiar with the Sebenza. I think most of you guys might be too, but again, this video is more aimed at people who are new to the hobby and maybe people who, you know, have to try to justify, well, why the heck is that worth what it is? Because I'll tell you, I've had a lot of custom knives come through my hands too, and I haven't seen any that are as precise, or not many. The Bodega from Todd Begg is right up here on this level. The Shirogorofs are right up here on this level, you know, but they're all high-end knives. You're going to pay for it. But anyways, we're talking about the Sebenza here. For one thing, if you're wondering what these labels are here, you'd have to look it up. But this is the year that the scales were produced, the sides of the handles here. And then the A, B, and C is the month that it was made. So sometimes these will be mismatched, and even sometimes the years will be mismatched, but usually not much. So you can see that's B, and that's C. And that's, as I understand it, that is according to what month the handles were produced. So here you can see the stop pin and the system that's used to fasten this knife together. Right, so you have a female barrel spacer that comes through there with no slop, no play in here at all. Right, and then the sleeve that is the spacer is over this. You can see how wide this is, all the surface area. Now that's going to stop this knife handle from pivoting in and out like this. I have actually, believe it or not, I lost my large Micarta Sebenza one day. Had a heart attack because it was out of my pocket when I got to work, and I knew I put it in my pocket in the morning, and had to go the whole day. I had to work my shift. You know, I got home, and oh man, I don't know where I lost my knife. I went to my first stop of the day, and my knife was gone out of my pocket, and it was my Sebenza. And I was like, oh man. So anyways, at night, I said, just on a wild hair, let's take a flashlight out and shine it around. Maybe it got lost from, you know, going out my front door to getting in my truck. And sure enough, it was in the yard where I was stepping up into my truck. My coat had come down and pulled the knife out of my pocket. And guess what? Either when I backed out or come back in from work, I ran over my large Micarta Sebenza. It's not this one, but I actually did. And the knife, this is talking a big diesel box truck, like as big as you can drive without CDLs. Think of the biggest box truck you've seen, and that's what ran over it. And the knife was fine, like 100% fine, but you could see the tire mark where I'd come in, and that's why it was pushed down into the dirt and I didn't see it. So yeah, pretty crazy story, but all of that is, it's a, honest to God, it's a true story, that this being so wide here on the standoff and then having all these points of retention. See how wide this washer is here? That puts so much stability on this knife. It's hard to see when it's apart, but look at all the stability that this handle, I let that fall out. Look at all the stability that this handle has to here. So when I actually ran over this knife, it didn't crush it down this way. And being that all the parts are metal on this knife, it didn't like squish out the Teflon washers or anything like that. So it is, I have seen it firsthand, just an amazingly built knife. Very deceptive because how elegant they look, but they are very, very tough. They're meant for work. And some people, that's a point of contention too, where people will talk about, oh, it's a thin hollow ground knife. How can that be strong? I need something like this to be considered a strong knife. And I'm not going to argue with you. Maybe your uses do require 3.5 Spanto XM18. But this Sebenza will outcut this. It depends on what you're looking for. But I think you're crazy if you think that this is not a hard use knife and that this knife is not worth $510 that it costs new. And then you look into, you can get them used. Man, now you're really talking, because there is a heck of a value there, especially if you can pick them up, you know, for less. I've seen large Sabenzas go for, I've sold one before for like 225 bucks. So, you know, you can find deals out there if you're looking around. Be careful because there are a lot of knockoffs now, but you will not get this quality. The blade looks funny and everything. I would suggest that you buy new from a reputable dealer or somebody that you know who is not going to take you for a ride. Maybe a friend, maybe somebody you've seen around on the forums, and maybe even require a receipt of where they bought that knife, because there are a lot of really good fakes on the market now. You can see right here is that carburized, like heat treatment on the face of that titanium, and you can see that this knife was carried and used, and you see no galling or galling, however that's pronounced, on that lock face. You can see there's no wear on there or anything like that. So just a good job. That is a ceramic detent on there, and you can see the stop pin has a sleeve around it, right, much like the back spacer. But look how this stop pin is anchored through both sides of that thick titanium. And I also want you to see this little detail. See how they milled this chamfer all the way around? But look how they left it at a little bit extra thickness around where that screw is, where it's really needed. That's the stop pin of the knife, right? That acts as the stop pin when the blade is open and when it's closed. I really love the design of the Sebenza, how the blade tucks way down into the handle. I love how sleek it looks. But even if you didn't like the way the Sebenza looks, I still think it's a heck of a value. I don't know how you couldn't like that, but I mean, different strokes for different folks. Look how nice and sleek it is. It's a beautiful user knife. Has a nice sharp tip there. The blade spine is rounded. You know, you could go on and on. The heat treat of the blade. At one time, Chris Reeve was known for running his S30V a little bit soft, but now this is, I don't know, 5 or 10 years ago or so. And I have found that when they switched over to S35 VN, they are running at a little bit higher hardness, which equals a little bit better edge holding. Noticeable edge holding, in my opinion. So 58, 59 RC. But I'll tell you, it feels like it holds an edge better than the S30V. That was, I think it was right around that same hardness. But I have had a lot of luck with S35V, and I think it's a beautiful steel. It takes a great polish. It's good for a beginner knife enthusiast to sharpen. I do have a video on that, though. They can be a little tricky because they are a polished edge from factory. You do have to, when you resharpen it, you have to make sure you're getting to the very apex of the edge to make sure you're actually sharpening it. I do feel like most of them can be reprofiled and you can get a little bit more cutting performance out of them, but it is a fairly thin hollow ground blade, so they are great cutters even at the factory geometry. But when I get my personal ones, I pull them back just a little bit more than what it is here. So anyways, that's what I feel. I think the Sebenza is well worth the money. It's almost a buy once, you know, cry one time. And I think that's even their slogan. It is, think twice, cut once, or something like that. Where is it? It's in here somewhere. Probably being made full of. But I'm not really one for marketing. That's why I initially got caught up in the hype of the Sebenza. I'm trying to find it where it is in here. It's something funny like that. But I feel like once you buy your first Sebenza, you really have the knife that could last you the rest of your life. I really do. You could hand it down to your children and stuff, you know. I don't think it's all hype. Definitely there is some hype, because that's a lot of money for a knife that just has S35VN. You can certainly, for under $200 now, you get S35VN in titanium frame lock, an EDC knife. But it's not going to be to these tolerances. It's not going to give you exactly what this gives you, in my opinion, especially when you consider that pivot, and then you got the carburized, and then how everything's built, how the stop pin interacts here with the sleeve. It's all the way through both sides of the titanium. How this is rounded and mates up to that blade stop. That takes that pressure from being a single point here and wraps it around just a little bit. I know it doesn't look like much, but that does help in not letting this blade come back more, which lets that lockup go deeper. And then you got all your tolerances of your pivot system here, not allowing this blade to kick out to create any kind of wobble. And then this being a deeper lockup does not go deeper and deeper and deeper over the years, in my opinion, in my experience. More than my opinion, in my experience, it doesn't. So there you go, guys. That is the large XM. This is the large XM. This is the large Micarta Sebenza 21 by Chris Reeve. I love them. I think they're well worth the money. See you on the next video, guys.